I told my wife we were financially ruined just to see who she really was. And the words she whispered to her sister that night shattered 12 years of marriage more completely than any bankruptcy ever could. The sentence hung between us and the vast, echoing kitchen of our glass and steel home overlooking Harbor Point, a home she had once described as architecturally inevitable, as if its existence were proof that our life together was destined and untouchable. "It's over, Vanessa," I said quietly, letting a careful tremor lace my voice. "The company collapsed. The investors pulled out. We're insolvent." I had rehearsed the line in my head for weeks, shaping it the way I would design a load-bearing beam, precise and purposeful, and now I watched her the way an engineer watches a stress test, not for noise, but for fractures. Vanessa didn't gasp. She didn't cross the room and take my hands. Her gaze flicked past me instead, toward the imported marble counters, the custom wine wall glowing amber behind glass, the sweeping windows that framed the marina lights below like a living painting. "What do you mean insolvent?" she asked, her tone already sharpening, already calculating. I explained the fiction I had built: bad acquisitions, a lawsuit, debt cascading faster than revenue, Crestmark infrastructure dissolving under pressure. I told her we would likely have to sell the house, the cars, maybe even the lake property in Asheville. I spoke slowly, softly, like a man confessing failure, while inside I felt cold and observant, because this collapse was an illusion, a controlled demolition of perception. 3 months earlier, I had finalized the private sale of a transportation analytics platform I'd developed quietly for 7 years, an algorithm system that optimized municipal rail networks. The buyout from a multinational tech consortium had wired $118 million into a trust under my name. Funds so secure they existed like a hidden ocean beneath the dry riverbed of our visible finances. I had come home the night the deal closed, exhilarated, ready to tell Vanessa that our future had shifted from comfortable to unassailable. But I stopped outside our bedroom when I heard her voice through the half-open door. She was on the phone with her sister, Brianna, standing amid rows of couture dresses, her tone stripped of its public sweetness. "I don't know how long he can keep pretending this boutique engineering firm is real power," she had said lightly. "If he doesn't land the Port Dominion contract, we might actually have to cut back." I didn't marry into mediocrity. I remember the way my hand tightened around the briefcase handle, the weight of the ensigned celebration speech still in my throat. Brianna must have asked if she loved me, because Vanessa laughed, soft, dismissive. "I love the life. He's reliable, and that's useful. But if he ever drops the ball, I'm not sinking with him." In that moment, something fundamental shifted inside me. Not anger, something quieter. Structural doubt. The foundation I believed our marriage rested on began to feel hollow, like decorative stone wrapped around cheap framing. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't reveal the sale. Instead, I placed the acquisition documents in a private vault downtown and began constructing a test more precise than any bridge I had ever engineered. If success disappeared, would she remain? If the shine was stripped away, would loyalty hold? So now, standing in our immaculate kitchen beneath pendant lights she once insisted were editorial worthy, I watched her absorb my supposed ruin. She moved slowly to the island, fingertips brushing the polished surface as if confirming it still existed. "How could you let this happen?" she asked, and there it was, not concern for us, but accusation directed at me. "I trusted you." The words landed not as partnership, but as indictment. I nodded, lowering my eyes in practiced defeat. I thought I could recover. I was wrong. The silence stretched. She began pacing, already tapping at her phone, already rearranging her social calendar in her mind. That evening she canceled the charity gala we were meant to host. "It would look pathetic now," she muttered. "Not painful, not tragic, pathetic." The following morning, she asked whether creditors would seize the cars first or the house. She didn't ask how I was sleeping. She didn't ask what I needed. Each reaction slotted neatly into place like data points in a report. By the third day, she suggested we have dinner with her parents, Richard and Elaine Wexler, at their estate outside the city. I agreed, because observation requires proximity. The Wexler estate was all old money performance: stone columns, manicured hedges, generational portraits staring down like silent jurors. Richard greeted me with a heavy hand on my shoulder. "Tough break, Ethan," he said, his voice thick with patronizing sympathy. Markets are unforgiving to people who mistake ambition for strategy. Vanessa sat beside her mother, composed, wounded in a way that suggested inconvenience more than heartbreak. Throughout dinner, they discussed my collapse as if I were not present, as if I were an investment vehicle that had underperformed expectations. "You overreached," Richard concluded, swirling wine in a crystal glass. "That's what happens when builders think they're financiers." Vanessa didn't correct him. She didn't defend me. She allowed the narrative of my incompetence to settle like dust across the tablecloth. I watched her closely, searching for hesitation, for the smallest flicker of solidarity. It never came. Instead, she asked her father whether I could be held personally liable for business debt, whether the house could be shielded if divorce became necessary. She said the word casually, divorce, as if testing its weight. I felt something inside me cool further, the way steel hardens under pressure. This was no longer simply about money. It was about revelation. Back home that night, she retreated to the bedroom early, phone pressed to her ear again, voice lowered but edged with urgency. I remained in my study, staring at the skyline beyond the window, knowing that the real collapse was not financial but relational, knowing that within days I would hear the final verdict she believed I would never hear. The test had only begun, and already the cracks were widening, thin at first, almost invisible, but spreading with mathematical certainty through the carefully curated architecture of our life together. The breaking point came 2 nights later, carried not by anger, but by laughter drifting down the hallway toward my study. I had been sitting in deliberate silence, playing the part of a man unraveling, when Vanessa's voice sharpened through the partially closed bedroom door. She was on the phone with her sister, Brianna. I hadn't meant to listen, but when you suspect the structure is failing, you don't ignore the sound of cracking beams. "I can't believe he let it get this bad," Vanessa said, her tone stripped of the soft sympathy she'd been performing for friends. "All those years acting like he was some visionary. Turns out he's just another overconfident engineer who thought he could outplay the market." My jaw tightened, but I stayed still. Brianna must have asked what she planned to do. Vanessa exhaled sharply. "I've already spoken to Dad's attorney. If Ethan declares bankruptcy, I can secure the house before creditors freeze assets. It's the marital residence. Optics matter. Optics. Not us. Not 12 years. Optics." There was a pause, then a softer question from Brianna. "Love him?" Vanessa repeated, almost amused. "I love the life he provided. I love not needing my father's money. I love the invitations, the status. He's dependable, sure. Like a well-designed chair, stable and useful. But you don't cling to furniture when the house is collapsing." The words landed clean and merciless. Furniture. That's what I had been reduced to, functional, replaceable. She continued, pacing. I could hear her heels against hardwood. "I'll stay a week, maybe 2. Long enough to look supportive. Then I'll file. Emotional strain, financial instability. People will sympathize. I'm not going down with him." In that moment, the last thread of doubt dissolved. This wasn't fear speaking. It was strategy. She wasn't grieving our future. She was protecting her own. After the call ended, I stepped back into my study before she could see me. My pulse pounded, but beneath the hurt was something steadier, confirmation. The test was complete. Over the next few days, her actions aligned perfectly with what I'd overheard. She removed jewelry from the safe for security. She photographed artwork for documentation. She met with her father twice and returned cool, composed, already detached. In public, she touched my arm and sighed about how hard this has been on Ethan. In private, she scrolled through legal sites in bed, her body angled away from mine. I played my role, quiet, diminished, seemingly defeated. It made her comfortable, confident. She believed I was too broken to notice. But in the locked drawer of my desk sat the acquisition contract for the company I had sold months earlier, the truth she never imagined. I had told her we were ruined to see who she would become under pressure. Now I knew. And when she finally zipped up a suitcase and said she needed space, I wasn't surprised. I was ready. She chose a quiet Sunday evening to leave, suitcase in hand, posture straight, already rehearsing the narrative she would tell. Supportive wife forced to step away from a collapsing husband. "I'm staying with my parents," Vanessa said coolly. "You need time to figure things out." I stood slowly. "Before you go," I replied, "there's something you should see." I connected a slim drive to the television, and within seconds the acquisition contract filled the screen. Helix Transit Analytics, finalized purchase price, $118 million. She stared at it, confusion turning to disbelief. What is this? The company I sold 3 months ago, I said calmly. Crestmark didn't collapse. I dissolved it. The bankruptcy was a fabrication. Her face drained of color. You lied to me? I tested you, I corrected. Because I overheard you telling Brianna you wouldn't sync with me if I stopped producing. I pressed another file, and her recorded voice echoed through the room, calling me useful, predictable, like a well-designed chair. She flinched at her own words. I didn't mean it, she whispered. You did, I said evenly. You weren't afraid. You were planning. I explained the house was owned by a premarital trust, that there were no creditors, no collapse. Only a stress test our marriage had failed. The confidence she'd carried for days dissolved into panic. We can fix this, she insisted, but it wasn't love in her voice. It was regret over miscalculation. No, I replied quietly. This ended the moment you chose strategy over loyalty. The car arrived outside, headlights sweeping across the walls. She hesitated at the door, searching for something in my expression. You didn't have to humiliate me, she said. I met her gaze steadily. I didn't humiliate you. I revealed the truth. And then she was gone. The divorce was swift and clinical. I sold the house not out of necessity, but because it felt hollow. Months later, standing on the balcony of my new home overlooking the water in Seattle, I reflected on the night I told her we were ruined. I thought I was testing her character. In reality, I was discovering my own boundaries. I hadn't lost a fortune, I had lost an illusion. And from its collapse, I'd built something stronger, a life no longer dependent on being valued only when I was winning.